What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Mind Time, the mini-series on mental health presented by It's All Her. My name is Amy Louise Ruffle, and I will be your host as we talk to some of our favourite people to celebrate Mental Health Month. And now, before I introduce today's guest, I, of course, must remind you that I'm not a doctor. Neither is our guest. We are merely speaking from our own personal experiences. And so for any tailored specific advice, we encourage you to seek out professional help, as there really is so much support and assistance out there available to you. Okay, now that the business is done, I am super excited to introduce today's guest. She is an Australian curve model, a body positivity and mental health advocate, and a personal inspiration to me. So without wasting any more time, please let me introduce to your ears the wonderful Jess King.
Aw, that was so sweet. Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. And we start the podcast off the same with all of the guests in just asking, how are you? But not in the way that you say, how are you to the person in your building that's like a neighbor that you don't know and you just like pleasantries are exchanged. How are you truly?
It's funny because when people, even strangers, have started asking me that, I've kind of started being a bit more honest and open. And I've found it's brought on some really amazing conversations with people you just probably never speak to. But that question, today is the day that Sydney is coming out of lockdown, and although I'm so happy for them, I can't help but feel just a little bit sad, and it's just another reminder that you know, we're still here as Melburnians, we're still struggling along, and there's still a couple of weeks till, you know, we can be in a similar position.
Yeah.
I miss my friends. I miss my family. I want to go and get brunch.
Yeah, I want to go to Kmart at midnight if I want to, like I saw people in Sydney
I don't know if I'd go that far. I think if I'd be lining up for anything right now, it'd be the bloody hairdresser, because I think I'm going grey. Like, I think this is it. It's finally happening. So
what is grey if not just help. Really blonde?
True. I'll use that from now on.
I do like what you said about actually, if someone says, how are you, properly engaging in that. Because you're right, like the minute you break sort of the routine and habitual nature of that, it might throw someone off a little bit initially, but then they are forced to engage and usually want to.
Yeah, and I find that like if you show that vulnerability, they'll be a lot more willing to be vulnerable themselves. So it's kind of beautiful. Like, it just gives you that chance to connect with strangers in a way that you probably wouldn't.
Yeah, and people that are maybe outside of your own little like bubble and comfort system, and you get to learn about like someone else's experience. It's really nice.
Yeah, totally.
So this podcast is obviously speaking predominantly about mental health. What has been your experience or relationship with mental health prior to the last 18 months?
So I went through quite a lengthy period of disordered eating and negative body image. You know, I remember going on my first diet when I was about 8 years old. So I've always kind of grappled with, you know, negative feelings around my body, and it really kind of escalated like during my late teens and early 20s. I participated in some really toxic behaviors, anything to whittle myself down, and I got quite underweight and I was quite unwell. So that was a huge part of my life, and I got diagnosed with anxiety probably about 2.5 years ago, but I think I've had it for as long as I can remember. You know, I look back on times, you know, when I was, you know, in primary school or in early high school, and I think, God, I wish I had have just got some help back then, because it kind of, a lot of the things that I did or, you know, felt or said, it just made a lot more sense.
Right.
And I wish I could have had some sort of diagnosis and assistance back then, but you know,
it's a different time.
Better late than never. And so I guess over the last two and a bit years, I've just been dealing with anxiety. I am on medication. I see a psychologist when I need to. And, you know, I'm happy to say I'm like pretty much, you know, on a good path with my body image. I still have negative days as we all kind of do, but I'm nowhere near in that dark space that I once was.
I mean, firstly, that's so amazing to hear, because recovery is like an ever evolving process and a really challenging one. So I'm really thrilled to hear that you're in a place where you feel good about that. What was sort of like, how did you make that change? How did you make that transition and break out of what can be really hard to escape patterns of behavior?
It's funny because there wasn't really one sort of catalyst, and I actually got involved in the curve modeling industry when I was still quite unwell in terms of like my body image and mental health. And I kind of credit the industry in a way for helping me overcome it, because it kind of taught me that, you know, I am okay the size that I am beautiful the way that I am, I can be successful, I'm worthy. And, you know, I was seeing that these brands and that these people wanted to book me and they loved me for exactly who I was. And that kind of like was a bit of a light bulb moment for me. And I was like, oh, maybe I am okay. Like, maybe I'm okay. And like, although like that's such a beautiful thing, in many ways, I kind of look back on that and I'm like a little bit disappointed, because I'm like, I wish I could have discovered that on my own.
Right.
But, you know, it got me to where I am today. And yeah, I guess you don't hear many people crediting the modeling industry or the fashion industry for helping them through mental health. It's normally the opposite.
No, or disordered eating particularly. Like it is quite nice to hear such a antithesis of what we're used to hearing about the industry.
Yeah, totally. But, you know, I got some professional help, and that was a big change on everything, and that really helped me through it. But yeah, as you said, it's kind of like an ongoing thing. It's, you know, there's no sort of like moment where I was like, yay, I'm recovered, you know.
Right.
And like even in lockdown, I have to kind of like stop myself every now and then, because I'm like, oh, okay, these are some unhealthy thoughts, and, you know, at least I can recognize that in my head now. Whereas like, you know, back in the old days, it would just be very controlling and easy to, you know, feel consumed by that.
Right. And if you don't understand the thoughts that are then resulting in a behavior, it just feels like chaos and like the Wild West. Like you don't know why you're behaving like you do. And even like I've had issues in this area too. And at least now I'm like, it doesn't mean that like the fight is over. It just means I know what I'm fighting against. And that was such an empowering thing to at least be aware of, oh, this is what this thought is doing, and I can choose to act upon it or not.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
So when you were diagnosed with anxiety, what did that like process look like? And then what did that mean for you in terms of how you could manage your day to day?
Basically, I went through a really, really difficult breakup. And I don't think I've ever been as depressed or anxious as I was during that period. It was just a really, really, really terrible time. And that forced me to, you know, see a psychologist, basically. I had looked back on my first session with her, and I don't even know how I like got any words out. I just basically cried the entire time.
But you were there, and that was the huge part.
I was
made
there,
it in the door.
Yeah. Even like on the phone to the receptionist, she was like, so what are you dealing with? I don't even know how I got the words out. Like it's nice that I can look back and laugh, but like, oh god,
now
they were some terrible times. Oh Jesus.
I'm sure you won't be the first or the last person to cry on the phone to the receptionist.
Yeah, true. I'll remember that. Yeah, so basically I went in there wanting to deal with like that breakup and the feelings that brought up for me, and, you know, we ended up talking about a whole range of things, and eventually it was suggested that I try some medication.
Okay.
And for me, that was something really difficult to grapple with, because, and I know this isn't the case and I don't want anyone listening to think it is, but in a way, when it was suggested to me, I was really disappointed, and I felt like I'd failed myself, because I was like, oh, like, why can't I just feel better? Like, surely there's something I can do where I can just feel better.
Yeah, almost like if I just try harder, I'll be able to do it, which you don't feel that way if you get some sort of infection and you have to take a medication.
Exactly.
Like, that's not a personal fault.
I won't even think twice to pop a Panadol or a Nurofen for some period pain, but, you know, as soon as it comes to my brain, I'm like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So, that took me a little bit of a while to understand, and like I faced a little bit of, I wouldn't say backlash, but just a little bit of push from some of my friends and family, just because I think like the way my anxiety manifests is it's not very outward. I'm very what's the word? High functioning.
Right.
High functioning anxiety. So a lot of people were like, oh, are you sure? Like, do you really need this? And then, I would second guess myself. And in the end, I was just like, no, I just need to listen to myself, and only I know what's best for me. And obviously only the psychologist can tell me what's best for me. So we made that decision. And I've been on medication for a couple of years now, and it's mainly been good, but anyone who's been on medication would know, but that it's really hard to find kind of like the perfect balance for you. And sometimes, you can deal with a lot of side effects, and that's kind of sucky. But as you said, like, it's worth it in the end. Like, if it makes you feel better, like, you just have to do it.
Yeah, and probably is about trying to find the balance. And if one system doesn't work, being open to trying different things so that you find a balance that's like best for the mental side, but also not giving you a huge range of physical side effects too.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
Really tough. And also, like, so hard when people try to cast judgments upon what they think your mental state is. Because you're like, well, anxiety or any of these things manifest in different ways in everybody. So just because I'm not, like, I don't know, crying all the time in your face or yelling or whatever, like, you don't know what it is like inside. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
People don't know what's going on behind a smile just because you're
not
outward
I
about
had,
it.
like, one friend who was like, oh, but my friend's sister's brother went to a clinic for this, and they had all these problems, and now they can't do this because they were on medication. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I respect somebody's experience, but like, this is me and this is my journey. And like, all I want for you to do is just to be there for me, and just like respect that, like, this is the decision that I've come to.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes the most helpful thing is just to be there and be empathetic and not. I think people want to like fix or help, and as much as that's a beautiful sentiment, it's like, really, I just want someone's like, if I need a hug, you're there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So then, like, sort of jump cut to the last 18 months and the fluctuating lifestyle and situation we've been in. Has that altered your experience, or how has that time been for you?
I feel really lucky in that my mental health's been pretty good. My anxiety's been really good, and I do think that's probably due to the fact that a lot of the time my anxiety manifests in social situations.
Oh, perfect. So let's just get rid of those then.
I know, let's never go outside again. I feel lucky in that aspect. I mean, obviously I'm still doing a shit ton of overthinking, but what can you do? I would say though, lockdown has definitely been really rough on my body image. I haven't felt great in my body, but as we talked about earlier, like, I can recognize those thoughts now, and I know when to kind of like pull back and just be kind to myself, and just to check in when I need to.
Do you have any idea why, like, those sort of thoughts or feelings have come up in this time? Is there anything you can pinpoint?
A few things. Like, I really, really take solace in my exercise routine. It's so good for my anxiety, and I just feel so much better when I'm working out. And before lockdown, I would see a PT a couple times a week, and I would also go to Pilates, and that was just a time where I could just kind of like tune out the world and not think about work, not think about anything else, get those endorphins, and just leave feeling really upbeat. And it's impossible to do a workout in your apartment.
Wait, you don't get the same feeling from your living room carpet?
It's normally me, like, on YouTube being like, workouts I can do lying down.
Yeah, my Google search is so weird about that. It's like ways you can move within 2 square meters.
Yeah. So it's not the same. What else was I going to say? I definitely think, like, I mean, like many of us, and, we need to be kind to ourselves at this time, but, like, I've definitely put on a little bit of weight. I think that would be a combination of the anxiety medication and just general being in lockdown, not moving around as much. So for someone who's had, you know, a lot of body image issues, it's really hard to deal with a changing body and like just to learn to be okay with that.
Yeah. And accept that there is so much of that is quite normal and understandable right now, as opposed to like in the past, you know, my body changes have usually been because I'm partaking in behaviors that are not the healthiest choice for me. Yeah. Whereas now it's like majority of people in lockdown have had some sort of situation. They're either, you know, bored or sad, and that can lead to differing food patterns. And you just don't have access to those like habitual routines that help you to feel healthiest. Like, going to the gym to me is something way more than just the physical exercise. It sort of sets me up for my day. It really helps with my mindset. And so it's natural that having taken away all of those things, that it's going to have an impact.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, so that's been hard for me. I mean, I'm lucky in that the restrictions have changed recently, so I can see my personal trainer, and he's just so great. He really knows what to do. Tom at FoxFit, shout out, hi.
How was your first session? Was it amazing?
It was so nice to be back, but he's so great in that he would train me via FaceTime. So I just like set up like a little, I'm in my spare room at the moment, and I'd set up like a little area and we'd do like a full-on HIIT workout, and then like in between each set he'd get me to like run up and down my apartment stairwell.
Oh my
goodness. So I was finding that I was getting my heart rate up as much as, you know, my regular in-person exercises, and like no one's been able to do that for me, because, you know, normally if I'm on a Zoom workout, I'll be like, now if I just place my camera this way, they won't see that I'm actually not doing this plank.
100%, yeah. Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, so I've been lucky in that respect.
That sounds great. So if you're having like a more challenging day, are there any sort of touchstone things that you go back to sort of try and help break out of a certain type of thinking or anything like that?
It's hard in lockdown, I find, and because like a lot of my work is kind of like reliant on my own schedule, I found it's really easy for me to just kind of like stay in bed and like get up. I don't stay in bed forever, but like, you know, get up a bit later and like potter around and scroll endlessly on my phone. So I found that if I can set an alarm, as much as I hate this, if I can set an alarm, or what I've been actually doing is I'll leave my blinds open so that I wake up with the sun.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, and so I won't get up as soon as the sun rises because I'm not that person. But, you know, it's just more of a gentle way for me to get up, and I'm finding that I'm able to get up earlier, and I just feel better if I do get up earlier. I know it's hard. Like, you know, the first thing I do in the morning is like roll over and check my phone. And like the days that I manage to pry my phone from my grip, I'm a lot happier. So that's definitely something that I would recommend. Like, try and get up and not like scroll on your phone as soon as you wake up. I mean, I'm so over the lockdown walks. Like, how many times can I walk around my block?
I know.
Like, I'm so over it. But I feel better once it's done. Like, that's the annoying thing.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword for sure. And I'm always like, in my head, I just hear myself saying, I'm going on my silly little walk for my silly little mental health. And like, I love it, but I'm mad at it.
Here we are again. What a surprise. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, there's not much you can do. I guess I'm just doing the basic kind of like self-love rules, you know, exercise, try not to doom scroll. Yeah. Put on a face mask. Like, talk to a friend.
Controlling what you can control. There's so much of this situation that's so far out of our hands, and I think you're right in saying like routine is such a game changer, because if you can sort of like stick to that and know that. Otherwise, sometimes I feel like I'm waking up and it all feels too messy, so I don't do anything. Whereas if there's some 100%, sort of structure, then it feels like you've like won from the start.
Yeah, even like sometimes if I'm like really organized, I'll write in my notes app like the night before a kind of like a really, really rough schedule just so I can see it kind of planned out, and that helps me because like I totally relate to what you're saying. It's like when you have a million things to do, sometimes it's easy to just like be catatonic on the couch.
Yeah, 100% do none of them. It's the only time that I am envious of like having an office job, like a 9 to 5. So like someone else gets to make the schedule.
Yeah,
like
and
how
you don't
nice
even have
I'm
to
not
think about it.
self-motivated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Sounds like a dream,
Lucky
but
them.
I know I would get there and not know how to turn on the computer.
Yes.
My last question, Jess, you've been so wonderful and so open in sharing. It's my most favorite question is favorite dessert of all time. And please, like, do not hold back on the detail.
Oh my God, this is too hard. Can I
love
list
that this
like
is the
every
hard
dessert
question.
that okay, I'm gonna just list I'm gonna list every dessert that like comes to the top of my head like right now, okay?
Okay, I'll be very happy.
Okay, so like hot jam donuts, like the ones you get from like the Vic markets, like they've just been like cooked, they're covered in like sugar and cinnamon. Like a really gourmet vanilla bean ice cream, but then you kind of ruin it by like dousing it in ice magic.
I haven't heard of ice magic in so long. That's amazing.
Yes. What else? Viennetta.
What was that one?
You know Viennetta? You know those ice cream cakes with like the chocolate shards in them?
Oh my goodness, yes.
So good.
I like, these are like a lot of like throwback desserts. I feel like you had
Niche, throwback. I'll give a more traditional one. Last week I made like self-sourcing chocolate puddings, and they were great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Anything that like melts and fudgy, that's where I'm at.
So fun.
Yeah. Great.
That was a really hard question.
I like to finish on something super challenging. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience. I think like that's given me so much to think about what you said, and just the importance of routine I don't think can be like hammered home enough. So thank you for your time, Jess. We really appreciate it.
I'm so glad. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
And we will be releasing more of these Mind Time episodes across Mental Health Month. So watch out for those. And in the meantime, be sure to check out all of the conversations that are already available for your listening on the It's All Her podcast channel. And check out their website. I've written a bunch for them on itsallher.com. There's heaps of great content on there. And if you are having a hard time, Lifeline and Beyond Blue are two wonderful organizations here in Australia. The number for Lifeline is 13 11 14, and the number for Beyond Blue is 1300 224 636, and they are always there to listen, and a resource that I've used and loved and has made a huge difference. So take care of yourself, and we love you very much.